For those that don't know me yet, my name is Lucas Castro. I am the club engagement coordinator for BC Soccer. Thank you all for taking the time off your day to participate in this webinar. Just an FYI, the way this webinar is set up, everybody's camera and mic is disabled. So if you have questions or any observations, please just post them in the chat. Terry and I will get to it after the presentation. But for now, as I explained in my invitation email, the club operating system was developed by FSQ Consulting as a tool to support clubs' operation and communications. This was previously named Stakeholder Calendar, and we had a few clubs in BC using them as a test phase for BC Soccer, but now we are opening the invitation to all clubs that have gotten their club license approved. So this webinar will be presented by Taryn. She is the CEO of FSQ Consulting. Just before I pass this on to her, again, just a reminder, if you have any questions, just post it on the chat. We will address the questions after the presentation. So that's it from me. I'm going to let Taryn take over from here on. There you go, Taryn.
Thanks, Lucas. Great to see some familiar faces or names, because I can't see your faces, and a few new names there as well. So as Lucas mentioned, I'm Taryn Lipschitz, the CEO of FSQ Consulting, and we've been working with BC Soccer on the club operating system, which was previously the stakeholder development calendar, for a few months now, really making sure that it was working within the province. I'll give you a little bit of background, and then I'm going to share my screen and walk you through the system in the back end, what it looks like. So as Lucas mentioned, the club operating system was developed over 10 years ago, about 13 years ago. The United States Olympic and Paralympic Committee reached out to us and asked us to develop a framework for activating athlete development. They took that framework and put a PDF on their website, which is sort of hidden. And what we've done over the past 3 years is take what was developed and not only optimize the content, but digitize it so that everyone would have access to it at all times. Whereas if a club had turnover in some of the roles, you would still have access to the system and none of that knowledge would be lost. We've made some updates recently to the system. So I'm going to share some screens, and as we are going through, please feel free to put questions and comments in the chat, and I only have one screen today, so if I'm a little slow responding, just bear with me. So as I mentioned, the club operating system, you can read more information on our website about it as well. It really provides you the information on organization alignment. So how do you really create and live your club's culture? Last night, we just had a webinar with Gene Smith, who's the athletic director from the Ohio State University, who was speaking about this. And if anyone does want the recording from that, we're happy to share it. But really highlighting the importance of culture and how you actually define and develop your purpose, vision, mission, and values and guiding principles. The club operating system also has a communication calendar attached to it, where everything that we do from week 1 through to the end, there's the communication assets to it. So the information that you would put in key messaging to all of your stakeholders. And when we talk about stakeholders, we talk about players, parents, coaches, administrators, officials, staff, and volunteers. There's expanded parent and coach communication, which is new, as well as more information on effective communication and conflict resolution. There's tons of information and tools and PDFs there for you around stakeholder engagement. So everything from surveys to onboarding meetings to mid-season surveys that are in there. There's also pre-season meetings. So how are you really setting up? And I'll bring these to life in just a moment and switch my screen share. I'm really bringing to life the handouts, the contracts, the pre-season presentations that you can have to really kick off the season the way that you want it. We talk about the 5 C's a lot throughout everything that we do. And really what that is focused on is going beyond just technical, tactical, and physical competence. We know that there's people who are much better teaching soccer and advancing through soccer from a competence perspective than we are. We support really on the other 4 C's: confidence, character, connection, and culture. How are we really taking this game and sport and helping everyone develop into holistic humans? So it's not just about how are we helping kids understand what it means to be part of a team and build good character. We talk about that also in the context of coaches, parents, and parents as well. And then the last piece that's included in there is reporting. So making sure that you understand what it is that you're measuring, when is it important to share that information, and what you need to do with that. All of these tools I will share with you in just a moment. Following this webinar, Lucas will share information of how you can sign up and get access. We do have a landing page specifically for BC Soccer, so you would get access through that. I'm just going to stop sharing for a moment, double check the chat. There's no questions yet. If I miss anything, Lucas, please feel free to jump in and share that. I'm going to now share my other screens to show you what this looks like in the back end. The other piece about this tool that I wanted to share is we actually worked with people and experts in different sports to build this. So this wasn't something that we decided to and came up with on our own. This is really something that, and for those who have heard me speak about this before, appreciate your patience as I run through this again. And for those who are new, appreciate you listening and feel free to jump in with any questions. But we worked with experts in different sports to make sure that the content that's in there is applicable to across the board for the experience that you're having. There's a lot of content within this tool. So you can see when you log in, this is what you'll see. There is a forum that you're welcome to put in questions in chat. But we really start pre-season. So before the season starts, 8 weeks out, what are you doing to get everyone ready for the season? We always start with stakeholder surveys to really understand how are people feeling about the club, where are the opportunities and challenges, and give you the opportunity to communicate back and say, this is what we're going to work on this season, and this is where we need your involvement. We walk through how to collect that data, how to interpret it, and then how to use that data into building your strategic plan for the year. We talk about preseason administrative meetings, preseason coach and official, and as well mandatory preseason player and parent meetings. And I'm going to open up a few of these in just a minute. But what I wanted to share is that once the season starts, we walk you through the operations and communication throughout the season. And I know I'm scrolling quite quickly. We do have mid-season coach evaluations and surveys. But also, as we get to the end of the season and past your stakeholder recognition and AGM, we also have content here which is new around developing your sport pipeline. So those who have seen the system before, tons of great new information in there and PDFs to support you with this. And then we have supplementary parent and coach communication. There's about 14 to 17 weeks of supplementary communication. So really, when you're using this tool, if something within your season or there's a topic that comes up, you can move things around and adjust them as you need. The idea isn't that you walk through this word for word, week by week. It's really taking it and adjusting it based on your club. We know there's going to be nuances around how you communicate to your members, the language that you use, and also certain topics that might be more important for you to focus on than others. So there's a ton of extra information around here. If you also run more than one season a year, you can always switch things up. So instead of having I'll pick the benefits of multi-sport, you might want to change something in there around differences in coaching genders. So really it is about using it as you need. And then there's a ton of great resources in here. So incredible books to read that you can gain some insight from, additional communication tools, documentaries that you can share within your staff, your organization, as well as with online in your social media, and then partners that we work with as well. So that's really what the system is in there. There's an FAQ as well with just some of the, like I said, what you get in here, which is a long list, but also key messaging and questions that we often receive. If you miss a week, jump right back in and keep going. What's great about the system too is we walk you through why you're doing what you're doing that week, when should you do it, and where can you do it as well. Is it something that's social media? Is it an email? Is it in person? And every single week is broken out into what are the details of the week? How are you then communicating that? And then more an expanded communication for coaches and parents specifically. We know one of the biggest challenges in sport is communication. And we know a lot of sport organizations don't have someone who's specifically in that role. It often lands on many people's desks and many people's plates. So we really provide you that content, that starting ground for you to then use and adjust as you need it. Again, a list, like I'd summarized before, everything that's included in there. I'm going to share a few examples of some of the weeks that we always find really interesting and important for everyone. Like I said, if you have questions, feel free to jump in and ask them. If I'm talking too fast, just let me know. And Lucas, if I'm missing anything, feel free to jump in as well. I know you've heard this before. So like I said, we start preseason before the season even starts to really make sure that you're ready for the season. You have to do a lot of pre-planning. And so what we always start with is preseason surveys. And we talk about why are they important and what you're going to get from that, how you're going to send those out. And then what we've included in here is a document for stakeholder surveys. So we actually give you the tools to run these surveys by yourself. Here's the standard questions that we ask. And what's great too is benchmarking them to say, okay, 2024, these were our results. These are the changes we're going to make. What are our survey results at the end of the season 2024, and then getting ready for 2025. So we actually give you all of the questions in here. We have questions for officials as well, so we can add that in. Another week that we like to talk about is the preseason coaches and officials meeting. So how are you really getting the coaches on board and the officials ready for the season, and really setting the tone? So all of the preseason work is really making sure you are established and clear what your plan is for the year and who you are as a club, and then everyone's role in that. So we always say culture is by design or by disaster. We really want to make sure that you're leading the design of your club and being very clear on who you are, what are the values, and who are the people that you want at the table and at your club. In terms of preseason coach and official meeting, we have some documents that will help in terms of, a true colors personality test. So how are you really understanding the different personalities that you have at the table, and what are the benefits to each personality, and how can you work better together? We also talk about the 5 C's. So we actually break them down and define them for you. What does it mean to have confidence and support the development of confidence, character, connection, culture, and then of course, competence. We include pre-session and post-session checklists. So how are you helping your volunteer coaches really understand how they can bring the culture of the club into what they're doing and really understand the key focuses? Each of these is 10 questions, so very easy to prepare for. And we also include a sample physical training program progression in there. So what are you doing in session 1 versus 2? How are you measuring initial, emerging, competent? So really seeing the development and growth of each player individually. We always say we're in the business of development, and development really is finishing the season better than you started off based on mutually agreed upon criteria. So development will look different for myself, to Lucas, to Matt, to Stan, to everyone on the team, and really making sure that everyone's having their progression as they need it. I wanted to share an example of expanded parent and coach communication. So if you go into week 7, it's all around managing conflict, crisis, and questions. We dive deeper into what does this mean for coaches? And also, what does this mean for parents? So the parent and coach communication will always mirror each other. We want to make sure that everyone's working together on the same page versus having that conflict. So we're really being proactive around the communication and helping parents understand this is the focus for the week, and this is how we need you to support all of the athletes and all of the players in the field, both on and off the field. Like I said, there's information around diversity, equity, and inclusion, signs and symptoms of burnout, how to create positive tournament experience, and a lot of content along the way. So you'll see it's not just about the score and the standings and the schedule. We really go above and beyond to provide that additional value to your stakeholders. So really helping coaches develop their soft skills, parents understand how they can support their child's development, and everyone really working together to make it a better experience, to keep as many as possible, as long as possible, in the best environment possible. It's a lot of me talking. It usually takes me about 11 to 13 minutes to get through it, which is where I'm sitting now. Happy to go through specific weeks or answer questions. I know, Lucas, you've heard me present this a few times, so if there's a specific week that you feel like we should dive into, please let me know. The other thing that I will add is there's a few weeks where we've added, I'm going to try to find an example while we're chatting. We've done webinars throughout the year, and what we tried to do too is they're in here, perfect. So preseason meeting, this is really parent and player mandatory preseason meeting. You really need to make sure you're getting everyone on the page and getting them to sit down and understand this is who we are as a club, this is what's acceptable, and this is what's not acceptable. Here's your handout for each stakeholder and the contract that you're signing, so that if there is behavior or actions that are not acceptable at your club, you've got that contract they've signed, and you can easily say, well, you haven't obeyed your contract and adhered to your side of it, so we're going to have to, here's the consequences. Under documentaries, you can see there's Matt Young from our team did a TEDx talk in 2021 around getting sports back to kids. We've got our documentary around the cost of winning. And then some of the webinars that we've run in the past, we add them in as you're going so that you don't miss those links. For example, in September, we ran this incredible webinar with Dr. Tracy Valancourt around the evolving relationship between parents and youth sport. Happy for you to share that and take this information and share it within your club. We know some of the success around this system has been improved communication. Parents, coaches, the administrative, even the players are very clear on this is what we're trying to achieve. This is what's going on this week. And this is how we can support each other. So there's a lot of great tips and advice within the system. And Heather, as she put in there, it's a great tool to deliver parent-player expectations and really help set the tone, which is really vital and appreciated. Heather, I know Mountain United Football Club used the system, who have now become Burnaby Football Club. So a lot of those teachings and learnings they're still using, including surveys, strategic planning, and a lot of this coach communication. I know, I'm not going to put you on the spot, Heather, but I know you yourself have said to me before, a lot of that ongoing weekly communication with the managers and the coaches has really helped the culture of the club. So it's always great to hear that. I'm just going to let the dog out, but I'm going to keep talking. So as there's questions, feel free to put them in the chat. Any specific weeks that anyone wanted to dive into, like we said, this is really an operation and communication tool to help guide you in the season. We know everyone has different size clubs. Some have 10 full-time staff, some have 1 part-time staff. So it really is that guide to help you and provides a ton of great tools and information in there.
I have a specific question about the completion bar at the top there. What is exactly is that referring to? What is that showing? Like
Great
the 3% complete.
So if you had started from the beginning and you did it week by week and you went through, okay, season 1, week 1, I read through this, and then I'm going on to the next piece of information. I've got my communication. What am I sending out to everyone around the stakeholder surveys? And then I'm reading, okay, what's additional information I could share with coaches and parents? Right now it won't update because I'm already past 4%, a little bit past this. But as you're going through, you can see it updates to show you where you've completed. So if you were to start this from scratch week 1 and you went through it week by week, every time you hit next lesson, it's like a course. It's taking you through it. But what's great too is you don't have to, you can complete it at your pace in terms of going through the content. You might say, you know what, week 8, diversity, equity, inclusion, we actually need to address that earlier. So we're going to skip to that week and start looking at the content. So that'll keep updating. It doesn't affect anything around what you're doing, but it's almost set up so that progression, if you were to start from through at the beginning, you would see where you're tracking through.
Yeah, that's good. I just wanted to point that out to everybody that is new as well, that you don't need to follow through week by week if your season is laid out differently. Taryn said that you can pick and choose what applies to your club, to your situation, or if you just feel the need to address certain aspects of your club operations with this tool, then feel free to use those. But if you want to follow it through, then it's already laid out. There's a excellent framework. As also, like Heather said, it helps to coordinate your messaging on Instagram or any social media. Actually, it's good because I know I used, before I had this position, I was working with social media, and I know that it's a lot of work, even though it doesn't look like it. Just figuring out what to say, how to say it, what kind of information to post at what time. So this is already like a very big help, because it lets you know what exactly should you be focusing on at this point in your season. I don't know if anyone has any more questions. Feel free to post them in the chat. Currently, Taryn, I know that for most clubs, not all of them, the season is picking up again. So I'm not sure, like, what would your suggestion be at this moment for clubs who are trying to bring in players and start running the sessions? What's the best week to look at engaging maybe parents and new players, new people? what would the weeks numbers that they should be looking at?
I think what's really great too, Lucas, is starting at the beginning, there's a lot of work in week 4 around strategic planning and being very clear on this is our vision, our mission, and our values as a club. So people can understand this is what you stand for, and this is where you support development in that pathway. That helps you understand who you're bringing into the fold. The whole week around developing your sports pipeline is really around how are you recruiting? How are you talking about development in there? The advice we always give, if your season's starting in a few weeks, go through it and confirm which content makes sense for you and map it out. And what's great about it when we just talked about social media is there is enough content in here for you to have a 52-week communication calendar for your club for the whole season, in and outside of weeks that you're also in season and not in season. So you can actually plan and prepare a lot of this in advance. For us, the big thing is being very clear on who you are as a club and how you're providing value to the parents above and beyond their kids are just playing soccer and they're busy for an hour or a couple hours a week. So it really goes beyond helping them understand how are you supporting human development and helping them build soft skill development. So it really adds in that layer. We always say those start at the beginning because that'll give you a lot of ideas. But there's specific weeks in there. Developing your sport pipeline is a great one to dive into if you don't know where to start around building that. But it's always good to look at those first couple weeks because it'll give you a lot of ideas around how are you setting up the season for success? How are you onboarding your coaches and making sure that they understand their role and what's acceptable and what's not? So it's a great question, and I know I'm not giving you one specific week, I'm giving you 2 specific weeks, but it's great to start there. In terms of Darren, great question. Are you able to add content? What we love hearing is feedback. So if you have ideas or something to add in, we're happy to add that in. So please feel free as you're going through, if you feel like there could be an additional resource or information. This is always evolving. What we always do too is as we complete updates, we email everyone. So that's going out next week on all the new updates that are being completed. We're just adding in our most recent webinar around culture last night, which was really incredible. So as we add things, you get email updates saying this is what's been added and which weeks. Since anyone would have seen it months ago, we've done quite a nice update in terms of expanded parent-coach communication and extra content, and as well as some of the webinars that we've run.
Darren was asking also, I think Lucy was also asking about information that is specific. If they're using a certain framework for a week and they need to add certain information that's specific to the session that they are going to run or location, I think the information, they can use that as a framework, but they can, when they're sending out the message, you can, of course, add information that is specific to your session. You don't need to 100% copy paste everything that is there. Like you can customize it to whatever it is that you're using it for.
Exactly. There's a lot of great information in there, and it's really a framework. Take out what's not relevant, add in what is relevant, change the language if you use certain words or phrases. Feel free to zhuzh it up how it works for your club. By no means are we expecting that every single club sends it out exactly as we've written it. We don't want that. We want to make sure that you've adjusted it. And if you do need specific instructions, and some clubs, what they do is they add this to a newsletter, like a weekly newsletter, along with other information. Some have it as separate communication. Some use it on social media. Some of it is on their website. So it really is a mix, and it's based on what's best for your club. So I'm just going to let the dog in.
As Heather said, Darren, I think sorry, Heather, I'm not sure exactly what you mean by you add TED Talks. I mean, do you share that content on your communications platform? Is that what you mean? If that is the case, yeah, like Darren said, you guys are free to use those resources on the platforms that you're in. Yeah, that's so Heather confirmed, yes.
Yes, Heather does a great job of taking content, and some weeks there's quite a lot, so they break it out and share it on different communication platforms. So some of their content, and I know Heather's done a great job with her team, is from an operations and communications perspective, they sit there and go, okay, what are the operations for the year? What is our communication that needs to support it? and then what's going in email versus social media versus on the website. So they do a great job mapping that out in advance. And their team, has put the hours towards it. It's a lot of work the first time, and then after that, it's just you're rolling and you're doing sort of the same thing with slight updates. So it really helps set you up for the season. And then what's great is if you do have changeover in some positions, it's really easy to say, here's your plan, here's your guideline, here's what you do week 1 when you start to the end of the season. So it's a great onboarding tool as well to add to your club's operating systems.
Yeah, and also just a reminder that once you start using the system and you're registered, you'll be getting access not only to the system but several webinars and TED Talks and all those resources that on a, I would say, monthly basis, even more than that, even more than once a month, you get something new that's different from the regular framework of the program, like a webinar with someone or a TED Talk or just a podcast or something that it's gives you more information on someone, what they're doing on a different expert in a different field. So there's always something there to keep you interested and keep you engaged.
Yeah.
That's it from you, Taryn?
That's it for me. Like I said, Lucas will share out this recording. He'll send the details of how you can get onboarded. As you have questions, feel free to reach out. What we will do once everyone's got signed up, we'll do webinars to check in on how things are going. And the guard dog, she's about yay big. She's just a miniature dachshund, so she's long and short, but God has a loud bark, so sorry about that.
That's effective.
Exactly. So appreciate it. As I said, if there's questions, please feel free to reach out. And otherwise, Lucas will send this out and share the next steps.
Yeah. So if you guys, for those that are not using the system yet, just please email me. I'll give you the instructions on how to sign up. You need to log in through a specific website and use the specific code for BC Soccer clubs. And then we can move on from there. We're, like Taryn said, I'm going to be editing the recording of this meeting and posting it sometime, hopefully next week, on our YouTube channel, if you guys want to look through it again, and for people who I know that wanted to attend but were not able to. So yeah, that's it from me. Again, just send me an email if you want to start using the club operating system, and hopefully see you guys soon. Have a nice one, everyone.